Welcome to Smooth Brain Radio, the talk show where we iron out the wrinkles of your brain, one topic at a time.
Hey-o! It's a smooth brain moment! Hey, what's up, everybody?
Hello. How we doing today, ladies and gentlemen of the internet and everyone in between? I am Lothens. I am joined here by NFXUS.
What's up?
We also have a special listener, Sparkimus Maximus Leviticus Locutus of Borg, short, aka Sparky. Going to be passively listening in to the live recording here of the episode. And before we get too far along here, I want to apologize to anybody who was expecting the episode last week. We were as well. It just didn't work out. It's my fault. I take the fall, and we're going to move on from there. All right.
Yes, it's not my fault this time. Woohoo!
Yeah, for a change. But this week, we're just going to pick up like nothing ever happened, and we're going to go along with the format of This Is My Topic. So what we're going to be discussing here today is a little bit of longevity, a little bit of genetics, a little bit of perhaps cybernetics. Can human beings live over 200 years is the topic for today. And this can be a mythology reference. This could be a local legend reference. This can be a genetics reference. It can be an AI reference. We talked about this in our AI episode, I believe, where you plug yourself in, your consciousness gets plugged in or downloaded, uploaded into a computer system, and you exist forever as long as the computer system is active.
Some Klaus Schwab type shit right there, bro.
Yeah. And really what kind of prompted this topic for me personally was I saw a little meme, and then I saw an article attached to the meme talking about, in the old USSR, in these remote regions, there were claims of people living upwards of 250 years in this group. It's kind of a religious group called the Moluccans in the Caucasus Mountains region.
So I tried finding it. I couldn't.
Well, the only reference I got once I was doing a little bit of research was I asked ChatGPT to give me a listing of, any references to people living over 200 years, and it came up with them again. It was one of the things.
Really?
The Moluccans from the old USSR were basically a religious group, kind of like, you could kind of look at them like Mormons. They were kind of really fringy religious groups, but they were really in-house, okay? So they were kind of considered a family because it's kind of like the Appalachian Mountains, you know what I'm saying? They didn't really... you know what I mean?
I did my kinfolk. Don't talk about my kinfolk, damn you.
So, down in Kentucky, they have a lot of that going on. But so you know what I'm saying. Anyway, so they had claims of like whole generations of people. Have 6 dudes in a picture. Great grandpa's in the picture, 250 something years old. His son's in there, 230 years old, and so on and so forth, all the way down the line. So pretty substantial claim, but the only thing I could find out as far as a real verified claim of exceptional age was Jean Calment of France. Was verified to have lived to 122 years of age and 164 days.
Yeah, I've seen
122 and a half. There's a lot of unverified claims, though, and that's what I want to kind of talk about, perhaps. And then what are the possibilities of us, whether it be genetic research, making some kind of breakthrough, or any other,
it's going to be artificial.
Biomechanical, artificial type, longevity, things like that. So what do you think, man?
All right. Well, so obviously I did, my search, or the way I research any of these projects so far is literally do one single search. Whatever the response comes back, I make a note of it, right? So my research was very little, but when you created the topic, my brain went to the Nephilim giants, or Nephilim, however the hell you say the name. But
Yeah.
I always see those old ass pictures of, there were giants back in the day. And if you read any of the biblical or any kind of mythos type articles or literature, your giants would, to me, seem to potentially be able to live longer, just for, I don't know, for some reason my brain says, all right, if you're huge, yeah, your metabolism is going to be off the charts. So, but if your metabolism's off the charts, that means, you potentially could make those cells live longer. So my brain goes to those and thinking of the hidden, if you will, history of the world, Tartarians again. Who's to say that the generation of lost information that we have isn't coming from that? The mythos of a giant actually may be the reason for a 200-year lifespan, and that story gets passed down. So that's where my brain went to initially. Obviously, I couldn't, you can't prove any of those damn giant things are real, if so on and so forth. So it's all speculative. But even AI,
well, we
was
do
just
have,
like, yeah. Good.
we do have real life examples of giants, like Andre the Giant, for example, a very excessively famous wrestler, world famous.
Yeah, but the giants that I'm referencing,
he never stopped growing.
Yeah,
well, I know,
that
but I'm going to get there.
Way bigger. Yeah, okay.
I'm getting there. But
right.
Any kind of person with that condition, and we'll call it a disease because it kills them young, right? It's very rare for somebody with giantitis or giganticus or whatever the hell the thing's called to live past like 40 or 50. Like that's like that's like they're 100 years old at that point. Because what happens is their heart and their internal organs can't keep up anymore. So their organs don't grow like that, but their bones and their muscles and their body and everything keeps growing. So their heart literally can't pump blood hard enough at some point to keep up with everything, and it just gives out. So that's typically what happens to somebody who's a real life giant.
Right.
But as far as the Nephilim go, that was supposedly the gods came down and had sex with a bunch of human women and created these half-god giants called the Nephilim. That's where the legend of Hercules comes in, and you have all these different, half
mythos.
Angel, half human. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and see, that's where.
So,
to me, that's where the whole. I mean, even ancient Egypt itself, right? If you look at the pharaohs and all that jazz, any depiction of them, they're always bigger than the slave, or their people. So that to me tells me.
I think that was an artistic thing, though.
You think so?
That was like yeah, I think that was an artistic thing to really show the fact that they are way more important than everybody else. Like they just made them huge on the picture.
But what if it's not? What if it's in actuality? Because Tutankhamun's grave, he's supposed to be the son of I can't remember the pharaoh's name, but isn't his genetics make? Well, right, he wasn't very big, but he also died very young.
Well, what I mean is,
he like a teenager?
Yeah, I think so. But we have the oh my God, the sarcophagus and the mummies,
the genetics
from that time. And they're not giant. They're normal size, or shorter than a modern human now. In Western culture.
Well, where I was going with it is what if the say he's a diluted bloodline is where my brain was going. He just didn't have any of that special sauce, so to speak, pumping in his blood. I don't know how else to say it, man. maybe
Oh
Pops
man.
had very minute of it, but Pops is Pops, so on and so forth. Again, the generational things, is where I'm going here. Because what Noah was supposed to have lived to be 400 years old. I think it was Noah, 400 and something years old.
Try like 900 and something. I have him jotted down here.
Okay.
950 years, apparently.
So and that's pre-flood.
His father was Methuselah.
Right.
Or no, his grandfather was Methuselah, 960 to 969 years old. And I didn't know who Methuselah was, but I knew the name from Bugs Bunny back in the
day. What a way!
Because he would always call somebody like Elmer Fudd or something. Oh yeah, there was an episode where Bugs and Elmer had grown old, and they were still trying to kill each other. Or Elmer was still trying to kill Bugs, and he was an old man. Bugs was old, and Bugs kept calling him Methuselah. So that's the reference I knew it from.
Okay.
But it's from the Bible, obviously. But that's almost 1,000 years old. And then you have the Epic of Gilgamesh. Talks about everything before the flood. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, all the god kings lived over 1,000 years.
Right.
So
and that's why I brought in the Tartarians and all that shit, because the whole Tartarian mythos is like, that's a forgotten knowledge that just has been refused to be passed on to us in our current timeline, whatever the hell you want to call it. But the like, for example, pottery in Egypt, right? While I was looking, through some of the links, I come across the link that showed some pottery that was like 100% done by a machine. There's just it's too perfect, right? Complete circumferences and within tolerances of, just millimeters and centimeters and, tiny fractions of perfection, or imperfections, I should say. And then they have handles for, ropes to go through that would just be like, there's no way that you could make this perfect. And then if you look at some of the Egyptian stonework, I can't remember which pharaoh it is, but it's literally like a mirror was held up and both sides are perfect. They're within, very minute tolerances of each other, to be like, how the hell did somebody do this by hand? And just carve it. That's what I'm trying to get at here is if you had to carve one of those statues and you needed it to be 100% perfect, the odds are you're not going to switch stone carvers in between it, right? You're going to have the one stone carver who is just the master of the masters, and he's going to be the one to do that the entire time. And some of these stones are so huge that it would take, years just to move the stone, and then probably decades upon decades to carve it to its absolute perfection. So to me, that would indicate that, there's time and or technology involved. And if there's time involved, that person's got to live a long time, pure and simple. So that forgotten knowledge could include the secret to longevity, if you will. I mean, everybody wants to gobble up, or I shouldn't say everybody, but the quote-unquote Hollywood underground wants that secret sauce from the Screaming Babies. You know what I'm saying? I can't remember what the hell that crap is called. Well, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? Where the stem cells.
Yeah. I've heard the thing where they well, let's just be as vulgar as we can. They grind up the foreskins of these little babies and they smear it all over their skin. That's
right. Well, that's what I heard. But they drink the blood though too. That's more so the key to it is the drinking of it. Well, what if that is an actual thing? I mean, the Aztecs used to do it. They used to do sacrifices, and then they would drink the blood and all that jazz. They were no different than chimps, essentially, as far as territory and so on and so forth. I would think. I don't know. I never was as Aztecian, so.
Well, I've never seen a chimp build a step pyramid before, so I don't know if you can say just like, but I mean, they were modern humans, obviously, but they had some really, really fucked up beliefs.
Right.
As far as, how to appease the gods and things. But yeah,
Right.
I don't know, the carving out the heart of a living sacrifice and holding in your hand, taking a bite of it, drinking the blood. These are some extreme religious beliefs. But I mean, that really, there's no real evidence that shows they lived longer because of that.
Well,
As far as what I understand. I didn't look it up for this, but I've never heard that. Smooth Brain Radio will be right back after these messages from our sponsors. And you'd hear something right now if we had any. Welcome back to Smooth Brain Radio, ironing out your brain one wrinkle at a time. Welcome back. We're back and on the attack. Can human beings live over 200 years? We don't know, but we're trying to figure it out.
personally,
I
don't
really
think
think
so.
the best. I don't think naturally we could.
No.
But I think the best way that we're going to be able to do this is probably with technology, whether it be a genetic breakthrough or some kind of miracle drug that, because, I don't know how much you know about why we get old and die as far as on the cellular level, but I've looked into this in the past. Basically what happened, because you're shedding cells
Every
constantly,
moment of the day. Yep.
every moment of your life, right? And the
Yep.
cells are dying and being replaced nonstop, continuously. And that process weakens over time. So the ability of the cells, they're basically clones of one another. Okay, so the cloning process breaks down over time of the cells, and they're not able to make such an exact replica anymore. So
Right.
that's why they say, the moment you're born, you're starting to die, basically.
Yeah. And that's how I
So
understand
there
it,
could
too.
be a way. Okay, well, there could be a way to keep that process going where you would never die of natural causes because your cells would perfectly replicate themselves forever. And then what do you got? Right? You've got a society of immortals running around. You got almost 9 billion people on the freaking planet at this point.
Yeah.
And every one of them is immortal. Like, how's that going to work?
Well, this just literally popped into my head as you were talking. The myth of the vampire is eternal life, right? What is the curse to that? They have to drink blood.
They have to drink blood. Can't be in sunlight. Yeah.
Right. But the main, but their food source is blood, right? So is the blood actually doing the replication process or giving it new code essentially?
Can't eat spaghetti anymore.
That was, not for me. I don't care, but I'm sure it sucked for you. But that just popped into my head. It was like, well, maybe the myth of the vampire is, a portion of that. Because if I'm not mistaken, almost every like longevity creature or myth, if you will, they have some sort of ritual where they've got to consume another living thing in order to survive. I mean, we do it as ourselves, unless you're vegetarian. Yeah. But even then, technically,
plants are living things.
Yeah. Exactly, as I was going to say, you're just taking a different form of a creature. So,
speaking of that, I saw a hilarious video, and I have to bring this up because it was Neil deGrasse Tyson talking to somebody. He's like, what if we discovered some kind of intelligent extraterrestrial life that was photosynthetic? In other words, they were plant people. And they come to Earth and they see all these vegetarians eating their kind, right? That's what they eat. That's what they consume. And so they go to the supermarket, and what are the vegetarians consuming? They're consuming the reproductive organs
I can just see the
of
plant
the plants.
Animal.
And then, like, these people are just freaking out and they're screaming, ah! It's a big panic. And they decide they have to kill us all because of it. You know, the vegetarians were the downfall. I thought that was funny.
And they screwed up the world. Stop eating plants. They're people too. Yeah, that would be.
All right, what were we talking about? What the hell?
Well, just longevity, pure and simple, and in the process of maintaining the cell. So, right, you're right. You have to. There's a fuel source to maintain its structural anatomy, if you will. So, and then like in some of the other episodes we talked about, nothing is actually ever close. Nothing's really ever touching, even down to the atoms level. You know, there's just as much space in between every atom as there is a space in the universe, supposedly, inside your human body. So size is really a factor there. So how do you make the tiniest of tinies live forever? You can't do it digitally because, you know, computers at least rely on some sort of food as well. In this case, it's electricity from our current knowledge of it, you know, computers and so on. And then there's the volatility to it. So if, you know, you lose power, do you lose who you are? Do you know that you were powered off, essentially? Again, that can go right into the simulation, but I'm not going down that track. But I don't know of a way.
We made it 21 minutes, folks. 21 minutes. We made
it. Hey, I didn't go down the track. I just brought it into the equation here. So, but you're talking about how do you live forever or live over 200 years? Right now, that's the only concept that we have is to transcend into, you know, a digital form, because that's what we understand to be permanent, right? Yes, you can download your brain to a hard drive, essentially. Pull that hard drive from the computer. So long as nothing happens to that hard drive, you can plug it back in and boot yourself back up, right? So technically that's living forever, but is it living? You know, it's not,
because
to me.
Really every particle in the universe is essentially immortal. They just get recycled and reformed into other things. They combine with certain other particles to make whatever form. And then at some point they break up and they get thrown back into the mix, and then they reform with something else and they make something different. You know, that's the cool thing about biology, I think, is the fact that we are basically the universe looking at itself.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird to think about. It's kind of crazy, but it gives us that connection with the cosmos. And I know that when I die, when my consciousness ceases to exist, and the atoms and the particles and the cells in my body break down into their original form, and I get recycled back into the universe, you know, some of my particles could go out and they could be part of forming a new solar system. They could be part of that new star, or they could be part of a new planet
in the
or
future,
a moon.
bro.
Right. I could power some flying ass car 1,000 years from now. I don't know. But
that's what popped in my head. What if they're recycling all the dead bodies inside cemeteries into oil ponds? You know, you don't know what the hell is going to happen. So strangeness pops into my head.
That would be hard to cover that up. You know, there's a lot of dead people.
I'm just referencing the recycling of what you're referencing. The human body is going to turn to goo inside a box. That goo is eventually going to become part of a volcano potentially, or a sinkhole, and just, you know, everything just combines itself at some point.
That's the secret of life. You turn into goo inside of a box and you create a new life.
Hell yeah.
I think we're getting a little bit off track here.
What's some animals? What are like animals that have lived pretty long? Do you know of any?
Okay, I did see. Yeah, we'll put this link in the description of the podcast show. It was a video that I was watching about an Australian company who thinks that within 10, 20 years, immortality is really going to be a thing, because they were talking about the whole cells break down over time. They can't replicate themselves perfectly. They're working on fixing that problem. And in there was like some ocean creature where, and I didn't write it down. I should have. I forgot. But the link's going to be in there. You can watch the video for yourselves. Some ocean creature that is considered, we don't ever think that it dies naturally. Like, it has predators and things, but it's a really deep sea thing. And also a lot of mollusks, such as like crabs and things like this. Well, no, they're not mollusks, but
Right.
crabs,
Crustaceans.
and lobsters and things, we think they're immortal. To the point where if they didn't get killed by a predator, they would just go on living forever and keep growing and growing and growing. I think that's where the, going back to mollusk, that's where the giant squid thing comes from, is, well, if this thing never dies and it gets to live long enough, it's just going to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. But for
So
sure,
my
there's
search-
things in the ocean that we don't think die.
Yeah. My search pulled up a bowhead whale, which on average lives over 200 years old. Now, when I read that, the first thing that popped into my head for the mythos aspect of it is Moby Dick, right? The whale was gargantuan. It was big enough to swallow him and his bolt whole, right? So if we know how big whales are at 200 years old, they're gigantic, compared to us. The possibility of, like you said, it's the environment and it's predator prey scenario. If it can live so long and the crustacean will just keep growing, whales back in the day, when the oceans were much more richer in nitrogen and oxygen and all the, necessary elements, dinosaurs were gargantuan. So why couldn't the whales be, and
Insects.
the lifespans just be? Yeah. So
insects were huge. Because
could you
it was
imagine?
really rich, and the oxygen content was really rich. Millions and millions of years ago.
Well, it's not so much even just oxygen, though, too. Nitrogen as well. I think nitrogen has more of a growth effect, but that's just me crossing dots in my brain for some reason right off the top. But yeah, that was the first thing. And the DNA repair mechanism in the bowhead whale is something that they themselves have. It's in the whale, from what I read. They can, at a cellular level, regenerate a broken function inside them, and it's all controlled by their brain. So I think it's possible for creatures to, but as far as humans, I don't know. I'd unless you're in some sort of freaking iron lung or, sealed in container to where you can remove all of the necessary evils and have a perfect mixture of growth. I don't know, call it sunlight, oxygen, carbon, and so on and so forth.
We have our DNA strands. We've been able to play with the DNA for 40 years at this point, 50 maybe.
Yeah.
Where the human genome has been completely mapped out. We know what it is. The same thing with chimpanzees. And scientists have been playing with this for decades now. Inside the DNA code, the genetic structure of a human being, there's what's called junk DNA. And that always bothered me, the term junk DNA.
It's unknown. Because
we have inside our genetics the ability to grow feathers, to grow scales instead of skin and hair. Yeah. We have the ability to, we have the genetic ability or instructions, like the gecko that loses its tail and regrows it, to regrow limbs. It's in there somewhere. It's just turned off. Right? The same way with the feathers and the scales and all this stuff. It's just there's a protein in there that's switched off that makes that not happen. So all the junk DNA and all that stuff, maybe if we figure out how to turn some of that stuff back on, solve a lot of these problems we have as far
Well,
as, just somebody loses an arm in an accident or leg in war, and you switch that protein on, it grows back.
yeah, I can see that. But, unfortunately, our alien overlords aren't going to let that happen. We're slaves to them. We're down here doing something for some freaking reason. At least that's what the internet says occasionally.
Well, the internet's going to have to wait until after this break. Smooth Brain Radio will be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
The easiest and most free way to show your support for the show is to just keep an eye out on social media and push all the buttons there. You got your likes, you got your shares, you got your retweets, all that. And that will help us tremendously. On top of that, you have 2 ways to join. Join with a one-time payment to get the SBR role in Discord, or for just $1 more. You can subscribe monthly for insider access, like the ability to influence topics, listen live during a recording session, and get access to special stuff nobody else will hear. So join the Discord and become a bonobo.
Welcome back to Smooth Brain Radio, ironing out your brain one wrinkle at a time.
And we're back. What's up, ladies and gentlemen?
Back,
and germs,
baby!
Any kind of specks of life that you want to consider yourself alive?
That's right.
200 years.
Any aliens out there listening in to the broadcast right now?
We're your
appreciate
friends.
you tuning in. Please don't kill us.
Exactly. We're just trying to figure shit out. So
Take me away on your spaceship. I love you.
the thing about cellular repair. Sorry, my brain was farting there. I'm looking at the word gene therapy, and that pops into my head for longevity things. There's a article that I come across that showed there's a guy alive right now who has taken this blood from his son, pumping it into him, and extending his life futures. Like, dude looks younger, feels younger, et cetera, et cetera. He's, essentially doing the whole Hollywood Underground thing, but with his son. So if he is proving that to be true, that the younger, fresher blood can recreate the longevity of the old dying cell in him, I mean, isn't that in the same lines of the picture that you had seen, the 8 generations of people? There's some remote people living in Siberia. Who's to say that everybody wasn't drinking grandpa's blood? You know what I'm saying? Or great-great-great-grandpa's blood. Who knows the diet? That's the thing.
Come here, Grandpa. It's time to bleed you.
Well, I mean, that's what they used to do to presidents. You know what I'm saying? You got something wrong with you? Well, let's just bleed you. So that's...
Oh, yeah. Leeches were a medical thing, for a long time.
So the whole
get rid of that
blood
get rid of that dirty blood in you.
Reoccurs over and over and over again in this scenario, and that's because we're human, right? We only know how to interact with things that are, well, I shouldn't say only, but we're gonna scratch that. Let's move off the bit. So, I don't want to go down that road.
Where you were going with that,
but yeah, that's why I'm stopping.
What I was thinking about when you were bringing up blood, a couple of times, I kept wondering to myself, and I've wondered this a lot, is why do human beings have so many different blood types? Where let's say I'm in the hospital and I need a blood transfusion, and you're there too. You're my friend. You want to help me survive this, but we have different blood types, so they can't put your blood in me or it'll kill me.
Right, but isn't there just 6 blood types? That
boggles my mind.
I thought there was A.
Well, there's A and B, and there's AB.
Positive and
then
negative.
There's like, yeah. Oh, yeah. AB positive, AB negative.
Yeah.
And I don't get any of that. It just confuses me because we always like to think that, this is what's biology tells us that every human being on the inside is the same, right? I mean, we have the same organs, we have the same genetics. It's just, XX or XY determines your biological sex.
Yeah.
And everything else is identical. It doesn't matter what you look like on the outside, you're the same on the inside. But the blood is different. And if you mix the blood, you're going to reject it.
Right.
Very
you're
bad
either
things
going to
happen.
accept it or reject it. And depends on your baseline to start with. But yeah, that's so.
Right.
Why is there different types of blood? That is a key question. Can we study? Do we know of any studies of like animals, for example, that have different blood types? Are they the same? Does a lion have the same type of blood for every other lion?
Right.
That's a genuine question. I don't
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah,
if
I don't
anybody
know.
has
That
an
would be
answer,
interesting to
paste
find out. Yeah.
So,
Let us know. Let us know if you know. Right?
So if that is the
you're some kind of
case-
biologist.
let's under the assumption that every lion has got the same blood type. Why are humans different? Is it because there are so many different animals as far as bipedal animals? Monkeys, gorillas, etc. Those are the only bipedals that I'm aware of. That the human-esque species. What about shit? I'm brain farting on the names. The Neanderthals. Like, don't we have a human Neanderthal body with some like blood stuff that we've gotten out of them?
Well, I mean, 100% the Neanderthals and modern humans were biologically compatible sexually.
Right.
Because
but physically they were
every like me and you specifically, any white person has some small percentage of Neanderthal genetics in their DNA.
Okay.
So the only people who don't are from Africa that have not, like, damn it.
Well, then
forgot to turn on my
your blocker. That's all good.
Streamer mode.
Mute it up. The is that potentially the breakdown DNA that is entered into the humans that cause breakdown? If Noah lived to be 950 years old and we base the Bible as a true story,
which I don't, by the way.
Well, yeah, I'm in the same boat.
But let's assume that their claims are realistic, are true for just a moment.
After the flood, right? That was the break point. The world got washed away and reset essentially with the flood, right? And after that, humans no longer lived. The stories of longevity disappear. Even in the Bible, they're gone after Noah. And there's no more 1,000-year humans. So, and Neanderthal pop into the scene, or Ice Age happens, whatever the case. I'm probably mixing a lot of timelines together here, but something changes is all I'm getting at. And then all of a sudden humans are no longer living as long as they did. What got introduced? You know what I'm saying? If the world became a giant ocean, something from underneath the ground got put into the atmosphere again, right? And then from that point forward, humans were no longer, superhumans, essentially. So,
well, the Bible will explain it as a sort of a punishment type deal.
Yeah.
But my favorite mythology is the Epic of Gilgamesh, is Sumerian mythology. Okay, so which I think the Bible is entirely based on, at least the Old Testament.
I agree.
Where they basically have an alien intelligence comes to Earth, finds pre-human primates, pre-human primates, brings them on board, splices their own DNA into the pre-human DNA to create this slave race to mine gold for them so they can repair their own atmosphere, whatever the case may be.
Right.
And that is basically your Nephilim. Okay.
Right. Right.
And then,
100%.
they had their, So, and then once the creations started to ask a few too many questions, right? It started to become a problem. The order came down to just wipe them out. But some of them, the guy who was in charge of all this, he liked a few of them. They were his precious little creations, right? So he wanted he kept a few of them secretly, and that was, this is like the superhumans of the mythos, of the mythology. And then over time, as they reproduced with regular humans who weren't superhuman, weren't genetically spliced and all this and that with the alien DNA. The alien DNA got diluted out, and all this stuff started to go away. Yeah. Pretty convoluted explanation, but that's basically how they explained it in Sumerian mythology, and
that even ties into the Tartarian stuff as well too, right? So, and the reason I bring that up this time so much in this particular episode is it's just forgotten knowledge, pure and simple, or potentially suppressed knowledge, right? The way that if you go get into Tartarians, it's suppressed knowledge for us today. But that knowledge, pure and simple, again, it's just an if factor. If we have been suppressed, why, right? If we can live to be over 200 years, these little trivial things that we go through in our day-to-day lives would significantly change, right? We wouldn't try to kick our kids out of the house at the age of 18, so on and so forth. We would be like, oh, wait until they're 200 before they're quote-unquote grown up, if you will. And then they've got another 700, 800 years.
How long would you want to live? If you had the option, say, I want to live this long, and that's how long you're going to live.
Oh,
would it be immortality? Would it be 100 years, 500 years?
I don't know.
2,000?
That's a difficult one to answer, to be honest with you, because you start getting into a lot of philosophical things on that one. If the ecosystem of today, nah, man, I'm good with the amount of time I get. Just to be truthful. It's just a bunch of bullshit all the time. But if everything was good and say we lived in Star Trek time, oh, absolutely, I want to be 1,000. I want to be 3,000. Why? Because I want to explore. That's at my heart of hearts. That's what I truly want to do, is see what the hell is out there. I want to find the answers. That's the better way to phrase it. I don't care what the fuck's out there. I want to find the answers to who, what, when, where, and why. So that's.
I think I would like to have at least a couple hundred years if I had the choice, but not much longer than that, because you would start to just be left behind, right? Because as you get older, you start to miss the good old days, and you think that things are getting worse and worse, and this and that, and but I think I would like to see what technology would turn into in a couple hundred years, because every 100 years or so there's some massive breakthrough in technology.
Oh, yeah,
and
big time.
I think we're on the cusp of that now, and I'm worried that maybe I'm going to miss the first interstellar flight with humans on board, right? Because I'm just not going to last that long, and I think I would like to see that at least. And but immortality, I think I would just get bored,
Absolutely.
And it really all kind of depends on how your health is too. Like if you're going to live for 500 years, but after 100 years, you're just like this old cripple bastard. What the hell? I don't want to be that. I don't want to have 400 years of
Notre Dame.
I don't want to have 400 years of invalid. That would be ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's in part why I said dependent on how things are. If it's Star Trek, then I know I can jump into the freaking body pad and get scanned and fixed. You know what I'm saying? But if it's just like today, oh hell no. I mean, my knee hurts from my ACL surgery, so no, there's no
Right.
way I want to live longer than what the hell I got in the current shell that I'm in.
Right, exactly. But now think about if you want to go into a cyborg body or a completely robotic body and transfer your consciousness into that. Think about that. Now you're a Terminator.
Right. Now we're getting into the Matrix. And we're back at the simulation.
Nope. Nope. We're Arnie, okay? We're Arnie.
Arnie, okay.
I'll be back after this message.
See you on the flip.
Smooth Brain Radio will be right back after these messages from our sponsors. And you'd hear something right now if we had any. Welcome back to Smooth Brain Radio, ironing out your brain one wrinkle at a time. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the internet and everyone in between, we have arrived.
My bad.
Back
I was
at
sitting
the
here talking. I
podcast
had
once
the mic
again.
muted. I was talking. I brought us back in and everything. I totally derped that one. So I'm 50 years old almost right now, right? I'm halfway through my cycle. On average, humans today live to be anywhere from 70 to 100. Right. So 70 is really the key point. So I'm maybe 3/4 of the way through.
Yeah.
That being said, if I could extend that another 25 years, right? For sure, let's just say I'm going to die at 75. I've got 25 more years to go. And I want to see, like you said, the next big thing. I want to live to see that on traversal Mars, whatever the case may be. The one that would be a selfish goal, you know what I mean? And I don't think that
Absolutely.
humans we can't cope with that longevity of that long of a selfishness. I don't think. Because at some point, when everybody that we love and care about starts, weeding off, our emotional state would change, I would assume. And we would become bitter and so on and so forth. So hitting that frame or that goal of seeing the travel to Mars would lose its luster at some point, I would think. So,
Well, I see that right now in my grandmother on my mother's side, where almost every time that I stop by to visit her or I call her, she mentions the fact that, she says, I'm the only one left.
it's gotta be so hard.
Grandpa's gone. All her brothers and sisters are gone, right? And then she's the only one left.
Yeah.
And, I said, well, you got all your grandkids and you got your kids and all this and that. But, it's one of those things where, it's different. And so that comes through pretty clear whenever I talk to her. And, so, but again, if we're talking about genetics fixing this aging thing, basically, curing us of our aging ailment, then it wouldn't be like that. Everybody would survive longer, right? Depending on your health and your genetics and your biology and things like this, but whether you smoke and drink a lot or not, or things like that. But, it's not like you would get the shot that would make you live 50 more years and nobody else would get it. And,
Right.
Unless you're the
Everybody
scientist
would
that
have
comes up with it and you're like, oh, human test, and you just pump it into your veins real quick.
The next thing you know, time just dilates in a different manner for you. It's similar like the way a vampire runs.
Right.
Everybody's just going slow as fuck. Like, what the hell's going on?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that would. You hit on something there, and I'm trying to recreate it in my head here. when grandma's sitting there, wanting the kinship of brother, sister, daughter, etc., right? And if brother, sister, and daughter and all them do have the same longevity along with it, the financial situation would come into play. I'm sorry, I'm bringing finances. I know I jumped. Money or the wealth is a better word. So wealth would probably change our current time of how long do we want to live, right? I'm not super rich. I'm not poor. I just make it. And because of that, there's so much more hardship, right? So I would think that people wouldn't, that are living a hard life, just, oh God, I wish this would hurry up and get over with scenario. Whereas the people like Bezos are like, I can do whatever I want. I want to live forever. That mentality is going to change depending on the scenario.
And I was thinking about that last night, where, if there were a pill that would grant immortality, would I take it? Or would I have to think about it? Would I, really, would I want that in the first place? Would I say yay or nay? Red pill, blue pill, all this stuff from the Matrix. And I was thinking along the same lines of, if my name was Rothschild, I would probably not even have to think about it. Boom, give me that fucking pill. I'm going to swallow it right now.
Right.
But in my current form, in my current station, I would probably want to think about that. It's like, okay, I can live forever now, but do I want to? know, it's
you
like,
do I want
movie, right? to? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So if I vaguely remember it. So what I recall of it is it's an immortal, but they have to kill other immortals. And when they kill the other immortal, they gain the knowledge or the life force, if you will, of that other immortal. They basically gain like their abilities.
Okay.
Did it extend any type of like longevity for them at all, or was it just a battle? Because that's what I would think would happen eventually with humans, more so than any other creature. Is we would just eventually want to kill everybody off that's not identical to us or lesser than. Take the boys, for example, in Homelander, right? He's a nut job that can live forever and got all the superpowers, but he's so bored that he just looks at everybody like they're ants, and he's got no enjoyment on it. Obviously, if you watch the new season, I'm not going to give no spoilers, but, things change whenever a certain factor gets introduced into his ecosystem. So, and I'm trying not to spoiler it, so I'm really being vague here. But
well, I mean, that's
the
good
only
enough.
Thing that I can see.
You introduce some kind of excitement into his life, and he's like, okay, this might be, he might want to hang around, do things now. But
so living that long, say it's 200 years in, and for 100 years he's just absolutely bored, and then all of a sudden, blammo, the new thing comes in. Well, what happens when the new wears off? You know what I'm saying? Does it go back to the default mode of everybody's an ant again? Because if that's the case, that would be one hell of a vicious cycle to have to live through over and over and over and over again. And I don't think any sane person would want that. I don't know. That's just longevity to me. It would be horrible unless you're just a digital robot.
If everybody's immortal and there's no natural cause of death anymore, it's all accidental or whatever.
Yeah.
You would have to really turn into like an extreme version of China where you can't have too many kids or we're going to have really serious problems here.
Yeah.
So the people that exist that are around you in your life never change. Right? It's going to be the same people in power. It's going to be the same people in government. It's going to be the same people that you see on a daily basis at the cafe or at the gas station. It's just everything is going to remain the same forever.
Yeah.
Unless somebody like falls off a ladder and smashes their head open, and they die. Oh, now, well, we got to have another kid. But And then, if you're immortal, how do you grow up?
You don't. You Deadpool yourself.
What's that look like?
I think you Deadpool yourself.
No, not necessarily like that, but it's like, okay, what's the transition from birth through adolescence to adulthood?
Yeah, I got you there.
If you're an immortal, what's the time
Interview
scale?
with a vampire pops into my head.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what's the time scale from birth to adulthood now? Is it 1,000 years to become an adult?
Yeah.
5,000 years?
Well, actually, you know what? The movie The Twilight just kicked into my head. The very last version of it, when they found the Indian boy who was half vampire, half human. Like, so Interview with the Vampire, they were forbidden to create children, right? Because children never grown up.
Yeah.
So it was forbidden in that culture because, they're stagnant. They will always forever be a child. Whereas in Twilight, the boy says he reached full maturity at the age of, I don't know, I think 9 or 10 or some shit like that. But until then, he was, small. His cells still replicated. He wasn't stuck in the true vampirism model, so to speak. But once he hit that maturity age, then his cells stopped, or at least slowed down his growth rate. So, I mean, if life could be like that in those stages of what you're representing, even getting to the, consider him a young man at the age 20 to 400, but 400 to 600 or something like that becomes the midlife crisis, so to speak, in your 30s, 40s, essentially. And then next, leap a couple hundred more, and then you're old man. But that's not immortality.
And that reminds me of that reminds me of an anime I saw recently, where there was the main character was this female elf. It was a fantasy genre, so they had elves, dwarves, humans, etc., demons and stuff. So the story was around her in her current life. She had already gone on this big, huge adventure where they killed the Demon King. She and her party of other people. There was a dwarf with them, and then 2 humans. And the dwarf was the only one left alive. The 2 humans had already died a long time ago, because this is like 80 years into the future from when this happened. She still looks the same as she always did. She's going to live for thousands of years, right? The dwarf's an old man. He's almost dead. The humans are gone. And she's trying to, and she didn't really even consider them friends. And they traveled for like 40 years together. Because she didn't see the point of becoming friendly with them because they're just going to die.
Yeah, the bond.
Like they're just going to die. So what's the point in bonding with these people when they're just going to die?
Yeah, so that's where Homelander's at in the new series.
So, yeah, it's just, that kind of reminded me of that, where if you're a vampire, what's the point, right? You're just going to screw with people. Because what's the point in getting to know them and being nice to them? They're just going to die,
Yeah. But as going back to the main topic at hand here, do humans live over 200? I mean, you found one random thing on the internet, right? That has it been proven that person's body, like the exhumation? I think that's the right word. Okay.
It's completely unverified. So what I think happened here, I wrote this in my little summary. Might as well throw it in now.
Yeah, we're getting close to the end.
The villages of Azerbaijan, Ivanovica, and other Moluccan villages. The Moluccans were the religious group that we referenced here.
Okay.
So there was an article. I'll put that link in there as well. The article discusses Moluccan villages and blah, 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 and mentions the long history of these communities, with some villages being over 200 years old. However, it states the average life expectancy among the Moluccans is 80 years, with no specific evidence supporting claims of individuals living over 200 years. So what I think was going on there is that people got this story of these villages being over 200 years old. And they, like the little telephone game when you were a kid, some little details get screwed up along the way. And now the idea is that the villagers lived over 200 years old. But that seems to be not the case.
Well, even in Star Trek lore and all that jazz, humans still die, but yet they can repair the human body at will without any issue just by waving a magic wand over it. So, I mean, to me, that there's a potential conflict of interest in that science alone. But as far as today's humans, 122 years, 134 days is the world record. And I would love to have had a conversation with her before she passed away to find out. And if there is one out there, I think we ought to link it and let people listen. But until then, man.
Well, I tried to set my grandfather down and interview him about what his childhood was like growing up, because he would tell us stories about, I know we're coming to the end, creating his own basketball goal and basketball, because there's no Walmart to go to and buy this shit. Yeah. He had to make his own bat if he wanted to play baseball and create the baseball. So it's a different world.
Absolutely. I ain't living long enough to make a basketball, so you want to take us out?
Thanks for talking to us today, ladies and gentlemen. And NFXUS and Sparky, thanks for hanging out and listening in. You can do that as well if you become a member on the Discord. You can do that and listen in to the live recording anytime that you want. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Join us next time for more Smooth Brain Radio. And don't forget, keep that one brain cell healthy until then.
And cut.